To have you here once again. Welcome to the training. So, and first and foremost, if we are new here, this is Visions Academy, and then the aim of why we are here is to learn about how you can go from your initial design to something as amazing as this. So we're going to be, you know, taking a look at the process at which you can be able to go right from your initial brief into creating designs like this. So without wasting much of our time, so I'll just love to give us an overview of the brief. So the brief is anything that you have been given as a guide to what needs to be done. So it might be from a client, you understand, and then they initially included what the aim of the what they are trying to project is, and then you can be able to learn from it and use that as a guide towards what you need to create. So first and foremost, let me show you this brief that birthed this design. So this was the brief. So this was actually a role which I applied for. So it was a brief to come up with. So I would just like to just go ahead and read it. So it says it is a Tuesday morning, and the client has called up and urgently needs an OOH campaign. So the OOH is out of home. So it's out of home advertisement, like okay, a campaign for Five Alive Poppy by Wednesday night, and you have 48 hours. So the brief is to communicate that the product is jam-packed with a big orange flavor. It says last year's one with the oranges busting out the pack. That was for last year. So and then your strategies is on holiday. So you need to come up with a new tagline and a 3 OOH out of home billboards. So we'll be dealing first with just the two sentences. So that is the first two. So it says that from the brief we can, let me just highlight. So from the brief here you can take note of what the client mentioned. So it's saying that the last year one that they initially did for the design was the and oranges were busting out. So probably there was an illustration of a design that they make the bottle to be, popping out. You understand, like the oranges were being illustrated to be coming out of the bottle or so. So that was the idea that that the designer used for last year. So initially they want something different, of course. So the major idea that they want to communicate is that look at this line. It says the product is jam-packed with a big orange flavor. So firstly, you have to think about the ways you can be able to break down this, the design, right? So how can you be able to illustrate that this design is actually packed with oranges? So you can think of a couple of ways. So the first and foremost, as the intended aim of the class is to let you know how you can be able to go from initial brief and how you can be able to take it step by step into the sequences of how you need to first understand your brief and how you need to first start making your research, start to brainstorm on the different ways in which you can be able to better communicate the intended aim of the design. So now that we've understood what the client needs, so they want a campaign, they want to do a campaign, right? And then they want the illustration to go in the direction of the bottle being packed with oranges. So now that we've know what the brief is talking about, what you need to do now is to start thinking about the ways at which you can be able to better illustrate this. So as I've mentioned, so if I'm thinking about the oranges is packed, like the bottle is packed, I'm trying to make a campaign for the for Five Alive, and then the bottle is packed with oranges. Then I have to be thinking about okay, what means what's what aspect of it can I be able to showcase that this product is actually packed with oranges. So the first thing that come with mind, that is where you have to start brainstorming, the brainstorming phase. So after you've brainstormed and you've having ideas on what you want to do, so the third thing you need to do is to make research. So I think the most useful resource for a designer, like you want to get in your arsenal, is and Pinterest. So Pinterest come in a what's it called? It has different design ideas. You can be able to look at what has been done before, and you can be able to see how you can be able to come up with something unique in what you have seen. So let's take for instance now we are trying to make an so I'm going to make making search of orange juice ad. So you have to know what you want to do. So you are trying to make an orange juice ad. So you can actually see what we are having at our own search result now. So depending on what you want to do, depending on the direction you are heading, will determine what you want to illustrate. So you see a couple of design. You can see the play of colors. You can see play of orange to just depict that and colors depict the mood of the orange to let you know how it is. So we can see the dominant part of it. So you can see different designs. You can see the the drink with splash of orange and then a touch of the orange beside. So there are couple, as much as you are clicking on it, you can also be getting more ideas to what you want to do. So these are a couple of ideas you can search, depending on what you want to do. There are some, I actually love this. I guess it's part of what the direction we're going to be heading. So there are a couple of, examples. You can see how this is looking like. It's, packed. But what we are heading, you have to also remember what you are aiming for. So you want to showcase that the oranges, the and what's it called, the drink is packed with oranges. So I think this actually shows it's like, this illustrate that it's oranges that make up the whole bottle. So that is what we want to project. We want to project that it is oranges that make up the whole bottle. So I think this direction is actually okay for what we are aiming. So once you've actually gotten this part of it now, you have to now move to the fifth stage, which is the conceptualizing. So the conceptualizing is where you start thinking about the perfect one that fits into what you want to do. So you already know what you want to do, what concept you want to use. So this part now, you've gotten the concept that you want to use. So the next thing that you want to do now is to gather assets. So now we are trying to make this orange. So where can you be able to get elements, and what good quality, oranges that are, that can be able to fit into what you want to do. So sometimes you might use Google, sometimes you might use top websites, sometimes you might just find anywhere that you can be able to get. Sometimes you might get, sometimes I can just go to Google and just say, orange and PNG. So you can see a couple of oranges here that you can be able to download from based on what you want to do. But for this case, I'll be providing to us, I'll upload the link to the what's it called, to the elements in the design, so we can all download and practice along. Once the video ends, you can take your time, go over it and see how the process is going to be like. So now we can see a couple of oranges. I like this particularly. This is okay. You can see it's even PNG, so that means that you don't even need to crop out the background. It's already been cropped out already. So probably you need to erase, because I'm seeing a shadow here. So you can see couple. So you can just if you like this, can right click on it and just save image. You can see it's even web, so you can just save image to your preferred folder. I like this orange too. It's actually facing the camera, so I might be able to just crop out this part, this actual one, and then be able to make use of this. So you just right click as well and save the image. So once you have you are done with all the images that you need to move to the part of designing, which is our seventh stage of where we are heading. So the designing aspect of it. So now that I've downloaded, so I'm going to open my own files to show us what I have here already. So this is the elements I want to use in my own design. And then one thing I did was to also find the bottle of the product itself. Remember that you have to walk along the product you are making. So now I found the image. So let me just once. So I found the bottle of the image. I just made a search on Google to just find the 5 Alive poppy. So now that I got the image of the structure, because now we want to build a structure that the bottle is packed with orange. That means that you have to get the structure of the bottle right. So you don't want to just randomly make any bottle. You have to depict the image itself. So now that we have the bottle right, you can be able to now build your oranges to make it form in the shape of the bottle. So let me just close this down now. I'll open the file for us and then we can get started. All right, so let me just take in the bottle. So this is the finished product. So this is the bottle here. So I'm going to be creating a new file. I'll be working with the normal Instagram feed size 1080 by 1350 and 300 resolution. So yes, this is what we have here. So first and foremost, I'm going to bring in my bottle here. So yeah, here we have it. So I'm an advocate of always, making your images, your objects into smart objects before you start working on it, because this plays a very crucial role when you're designing, and then your objects have already been rasterized. Let's take for instance you worked in a 1080 by 1350, and then the client reached back to you that, oh, we'd like to make this into a billboard, and then you found out that the files you've used, right, you cannot go more than the actual document size which you have already picked. So that might be a concern for you, and then you might start to have issues with that. So to save you the stress, make sure that any element you drag into your artboard, into your bot you're using to work into your documents, you choose and then come right click on the object and choose convert to smart objects, so it can be able to make that. So first and foremost, let's take out the background. It's in white, so I'll use the quick selection, which is select subjects. I know there are other means at which you can be able to, you can decide to cut it out, but for this, since this has become much more easier, I can just choose the select subject. If you don't have select subject, that means you have to initially cut the image out yourself. So and there's a tutorial I already have, on our channel, where you can be able to watch how you can be able to remove backgrounds manually if need be. All right, so I'm going to be deleting this one, or I just hide it now. Okay, so let me just pick a color so you can be able to see what's happening. So let me pick, I already sampled one of the colors here. Let me just pick this so you can be able to see this very well. So yes, so we've removed the background from our subject, which is the bottle. So what we need to do now is to start building elements. So first and foremost, I would like to crop out this label, because we know that this label is going to be what is going to depict the bottle itself. So once we have the orange part, you have to brand it up. So let me just take out number one, the label on this bottle. So I'm using my pen tool. I believe we all know what the pen tool is, so you can use any selection tool that works for you. So let me just make selection of label. Right, so once you're done, just make your selection. Okay, let me just choose 0.5 feather, and then make duplicate of it. You can see I've made a duplicate. I'm going to, don't forget, convert to smart objects, so that once you scale an image down, you can be able to scale it back up without losing any resolution of the file. So now we are good to go. So we're going to hide this now. You see that we have the label separate. So what we need to do next is to be able to also remove the cover itself, because the cover has to crown the orange once we are done. So let's take out the cover as well into a new layer. All right, so we're done with that as well. So let me just make a duplicate and also convert to smart objects. So that means that we have, so let's name this just to be able to quickly reference it. This is the label, so label, and then let's name this the cover. So it's always good to name your files like that, so it's going to help. So let's group this together and name this and bottle mockup. So we're already hidden the files, so once, let me just unhide it, and then this one is not needed, so let's just put this. Okay, yes, so let's hide this bottom mockup, and then we have our label, we have our cover. So what I did here was to press Ctrl G. So on this color field, I'm going to Ctrl G this. So this is where we're going to be calling our background. So you can just hold any, if you hold down this to Ctrl and click on any of the layers, you can Ctrl G to group them into a folder. So I've added this into a new folder called background, so that we can be able to play around with this and can be able to have everything properly done. So I don't need the background here, so we can be able to save this next here. So this is the label, this is the cover. So let me just bring the cover up. So now that we are done with this now, so we can bring out our bottle and what's it called. So we need to start building the oranges now. So let me open where I have my oranges downloaded. So this is what we have here. We have the oranges. So we are going to be using 1, 2, 3, and 4. So all the elements has no background, so I'll be sharing with us, so that will actually make it much more easier. So we've put all our elements here, so let's scale it down. So let me just bring the elements here so we can be able to see them very well. All right, so we can see that this is actually looking as though we're about to get started. So just look at the elements we're going to be using here. So let me bring out my elements here. Just want to okay. So this is what we are trying to okay. So first and foremost, let's cut out the because I might not be able to use because the distance between these two oranges, right? I would like to separate the what's it called, the front view from the full orange here. So to do this, so let me just open this layer itself so I can be able to retain the original size of the image. And then what I'm going to do is to just crop out the part I need. I'm not needing the full one. You understand? I'm not needing the full image. I don't only need the one facing the camera. Okay, so just make a duplicate and delete this part. So this is it. So what I did was just to make my, because I'm used to shortcuts, right? So once you hover around your toolbar here, you can be able to see that each tools has a shortcut. You understand? So you can just see that someone is moving from one place to the other. I don't know what the person is pressing. So once you hover on this, you see that this elliptical marquee tool is M. So what I did was just to press my M, and then I was able to choose this. So you can right click on this to see other tools that is here. So just to break it down again, just make your marquee selection around where you need. You can decide to use your pen tool or your crop tool to crop it out, any one that you prefer. So I'm going to hide this now. So okay, so let me just bring this back into what we are designing here. All right, so I'm going to convert. Before I do any scaling, don't forget, always convert to smart objects, so that once you scale it down, you can scale it up without losing resolution. So I'm going to hide this one. I no longer need this, so let me just take it off. I don't need to hide itself. So all right, I'll be scaling these images up and start putting it together to form the shape of the initial design. So let me first make use of this. So first and foremost, let me start dragging the oranges. I want this to be here. So you can see that I'm following the shape of the design. So if it's outside, if it comes beyond this, you see that this is not forming the shape of the orange itself. So you have to make sure you're working in the scale of what you are trying to achieve. So let me just you can decide to scale it up, but let's scale it down more so that I can be able to get more of the oranges packed in it here. So you can see I have this. So I'm going to be making use of this second orange here. So I'm going to scale it down as well and then bring it here. So okay, I guess this is good. So we can decide to scale this up a bit to get the proper shape of what we want. So I'm going to make duplicates of this. You can hold down your Alt and drag any object. It's going to make a duplicate, or you can decide to press Ctrl J when you are on the object. Ctrl J is going to make a duplicate of the object as well. So I'm going to be taking this down. You remember that we have our label, so our label should be top up, so you can be able to cover this. So once, let me hide the bottle again so you can see what we are creating. You can see that it's already creating the shape of what we are intending it to do. So now let me reveal the object back again, and then be able to just bring down our orange so we have more of the shape of the orange. So all right, so I'm going to make another duplicate of this that has the leaves. So I'm going to make a duplicate. Ctrl J, don't forget Ctrl C to okay, so I'm making this to okay. One thing is that I want to keep everything in the right proportion. So one thing is that you want to do is that you want to keep consistency in the design as well. So make sure that you don't scale one too big, you don't scale one too small, so you can be able to align and proportion the overall design very well. So now I'm going to be flipping this. So Ctrl T to just highlight what you've selected, and right click on it and choose flip horizontal, so you can be able to have the leaf fall at the left hand side of the object. So we can be able to bring this bring this here, and then what we need to do so we can decide to bring one more orange here. So we can put this one, we can bring it to the top. So you can drag this and bring it to the top here so it covers this, but nevertheless it has the and what's it called, the label has to be the one at the topmost. So we have this here, and then so let's have another orange here to cover this part up. So it seems as if that is falling below the label. So now that we are good here, so you see that we are even here to make use of this. So I'm going to be bringing this one here and Control T, and then just rotate this to be able to fit into this part. See that it's actually help us to fit very well into that shape. So we have this here. So I'm going to bring this, hold down my alt and drag and bring this up. So I'm going to be scaling this up a bit so that I can be able to take a and what's it called, a part of it as well. So let me just scale this up a bit here, and then I would like to scale this as well up a bit. All right, so that I can be able to see more of this lovely orange here. All right, so let's make another duplicate of this with the leaf and then scale this up as well. So initially what we are just trying to do is just to build around the shape of what we have. So I'm going to take this down, so just to make sure that it's behind the cutout orange, and then I'm going to be making use of this just to randomize it. So I'm increasing the scale a bit to just fit in well, but don't make it too big than the other ones. All right, so once we have this here, so what I want to do now is take this one and bring it to the top a bit, bring this one up. Yes, so we have this, and then I'm going to be making duplicates of this slice. So this is going to be the ones that the crown is going to be on the cap. So you can just scale this up and then have it, so because the cover has to sit on it, you have to make sure that you're getting. So I would like to just take a bit and rotate it so it doesn't look symmetrically same with the one we have at the bottom. So let me just intersect. Yes, I guess I love it how it is here intersecting each other. So we can decide to scale this up a bit for the bottom. Okay, so we have something here. So we can make a duplicate of this as well and just bring it here so we don't have too much empty spaces. So now that we have this here, we can bring up our cover to the top so that it can crown the design. So we might decide to just scale this up or bring it up a bit so that I can cover. Yes, I think this is okay. So let us now hide the bottom mockup and see what we have. Fantastic. So you can see that the image itself already seems as if it's actually the bottle. So you can see that we have empty spaces. So what you want to do is that you want to make sure that you don't have empty spaces. So this, I'm going to take this a bit down and then take it behind. So let me take it behind. Yes, so let it just go behind this. Yes. All right, so I'm going to also add an orange below that part where we are having space here, just to fill this up. So I'm going to make duplicate of this. You can do Ctrl J or Ctrl T, or Ctrl J rather, or you just hold down your Alt to drag any object. So I'm going to take this and just make it here. You can see that that's already filled that empty space. So let's reveal our bottle again, so we have something here. Okay, so let me see if I can be able to just put this up a bit to just create that shape. So it does not have to, you don't have to create. You can see that in the bottle there are some spaces here that we don't make use of, so you don't have to fill everything up. So you just make sure that you get at least most of the shape right. So it's better we have this here, and then just make a duplicate of this. Control T to flip it. I don't want the leaf to show, so I just want to take this one down. You can just bring this down to where we have. So let me go down one more. Yes, so I think this should be okay. So let's hide our bot. Exactly, so this is very okay. Now we are good with this. I think I actually like this. I like this a lot. So one thing that actually always creates that realism is when you are actually applying the rules of dimensions to what you do. So for instance, now we can say this is actually nice, this is okay, but you can see that this is flat, there's no depth in the design. So once you make use of the rules of lights in your design, it can be able to help you to bring realism into what you're doing. So what you want to do is that we already have all our oranges feeling packed Very okay. And then there's one thing that is missing, it's shadows. So when object overlaps with each other, if you take for instance any object that is with you there, once it overlaps with each other, if a cup is sitting down on a table, there's going to be a shadow. Even when it is being lifted up, there's going to be a shadow if it's going to be lit beneath what you have. So that is what is creating depth and also showing the areas of where the light is falling on your objects, on any object or in design. So now if we are trying to create realism in this design, we have to make sure that we make use of shadows. So now we're going to be adding shadows to our design now. So I would love to, so I'll be showing you that. So firstly, I think this is, we need to scale this up a bit and then just bring it here so that I can be able to, so I'm seeing too much empty space. Yes, this is okay. So now what we need to do now is to start adding shadows. And how do you add shadows? So what you need to do is that first and foremost, let's start from the top. So let's say this cover is sitting down on this orange, right? So if it's properly sitting down, of course it's looking as if it's sitting down, but once you add shadow now, it creates that much more realism towards what we initially have. So I'm going to make a new layer before. So let me bring this. So the layer has to be on this orange, because it is this orange that is going to be affected by what the cap is being doing. So if I'm selecting here, you can see this is, once you select, you can be able to identify where it is here. So I'm going to make a new layer. So you can just click on the plus icon here. So it's going to make a new empty layer above what you selected. So now we want to make a shadow. So let's say if I paint, I'm going to select my brush. You can select your brush with B, and then you have your brush selected. We have the brush here. So let me just click on the empty layer, and then you can scale down your brush with the right bracket, or and what's it called, the right bracket, or you can just come to the top here and just reduce the size. So I'm going to be painting this with black, so I'm going to switch this color to black. If you don't have black here, you can just press D on your keyboard. It's going to reset this swatch here to black and white. So I'm going to be painting this. Let's say I'm painting this. You can see what it's doing here. So we're going to be painting it strategically. Let's say the shadow is here, so I'm going to be painting where the shadow is supposed to fall. So let's say the shadow is supposed to fall around here. So what you want to do is to now mask this shadow to the layer you created. So you can just hold down your Alt and come in between the layer that you want to choose the shadow on, and then click on it. You can see this arrow. Once you see this arrow, that means that it's going to click, it's going to actually mask the layer that you are selecting, which is the top, to the one below it. So you are going to clip this to this. Now you can see now, so this shadow is clipped to now above the orange now. So what you need to do is to change your blend mode to multiply. So I'm going to be changing the blend mode to multiply, and also reduce the opacity, because this is too much. So I'm going to reduce the opacity. You can see, so I'm using my number keyboards to do that. So but you can come here and just set your opacity to around, maybe let's say 30. Let's see what we have for 30. So 30 is okay. So another thing I want to do is that you have to add more depth. So this is the general, like it's sitting on it, right? And then you can be able to see that where it's sitting on it is this part. So I can decide to erase some part that is not and what's it called, needed. Okay, so I'm going to add a new one into it again. I'm going to mask that to follow that, but this time around it's going to be much more darker. It is the part where it's the part where it's much more closer to the orange, as the shadow. It's called fall off, right? What I first did was the fall off. So the other one is where the impact, where it's been sitting on. So that part has more shadow than the other one. So that is where you have to paint to that floor area where it seems as if the the cover is resting on. So you can see that. So you change your blend mode also to multiply, and then you can reduce the opacity to something like, let's say, 55. So I think we have something that is okay here. So you can decide to just look, I always love to just scale down to see how it's looking far behind. So now I'll be doing the others for the rest. Don't forget that if you select your brush and then your brush is not and giving you, it's too what's it called, probably you are using the add round brush. So make sure you choose the soft round. So once you choose the brush, right click on your layer, on anywhere in your in your design, just choose the soft round brush, which is the default, soft round brush so you can be able to see that it's going to be fainted. So if you choose the add, it's going to be add, and then you need to blur this. So okay, so I'll be doing others for any way I'm seeing that I want to create that depth of overlapping. So I'm doing this for this now. So just follow along with your shadow painting. Sorry, let's switch to the soft round, and then let me choose my opacity of my brush. So to just come, so it needs to come below this orange, so I'll need to drag this and come here. So yes, I love how this is looking already. So don't forget, you can choose, you need to always change your shadow to multiply, so that is will create much more realism effect. So we have here, there has to be a layer up above this part to where this is also. So I'm masking my shadow and also changing my blend mode to multiply. So there's a shortcut I always use to change my blend mode to multiply, that is Shift Alt M. So that actually makes you to work much more faster. If you hold down Shift Alt M on any layer, it's going to change the blend mode to multiply. So I'm going to be adding a new layer to this as well, so to just create that part. Yes, I think I love this. So you can choose, once it's too harsh, you don't want to make the shadow too harsh, so you can change the opacity. I'm using the number pad. If you choose 5, that's 50, 6 is 60, or you can come to this opacity and change. So I think it's, you can see the depth we are having our design now. It's looking much more realistic than what we initially had before. So this part, let me add a shadow here as well, to just create where this is touching, just faintly, not too much. So yes, change the blend mode to multiply, don't forget. And here where the cover is, let's add shadow to this orange as well. Okay, yes, so let me mask that as well. And don't forget your blend mode to multiply. Always reduce the opacity if it's too harsh. And then let us add shadow here too. So I'm just trying to figure out every part of where those oranges are overlapping, so you can be able to add little shadow to it. So that's what you want to be looking out for. So we're good with this, and then we have, let's come to this, like we have done with the top here, so we want to add shadow here as well. Okay, so let me add a shadow here as well, so we can be able to have much more depth here. Okay, love this. Okay, so we need to add shadow here as well. Okay, let me just mask this here. Okay, so let us add, we need to add shadow to this part as well. So yes, then where it's reaching. So don't worry, we'll still mask this part out. So once you mask it out, it's going to look okay. So it's going to look okay. And then so let's add shadow here as well. So alright, so as I'm applying the shadow, I'm also applying my what's it called, my blend mode, so that I don't forget any one of it. So you have to make sure you are also adding that as well. Okay, I think this is good. So this is good now, so we can see before the shadows and after the shadows what this has helped to do with our design. So I think this is quite okay. This is this is good if you ask me, but you might just decide to add much more shadow here. I want to add a little bit here, so because there are oranges here, that's okay. I think this is quite okay now. So now that we are done with this now, so what I will do now is to group everything together, every one of it, so we can see all what we have created, group them together, Ctrl G, don't forget, and name this orange part. So now that you have everything, you've built everything up. So, and in order to not select, if you select this now, because I'm on the select mode, which is the layer, it's not selecting everything, even though I've grouped them together. Because after you've grouped your elements together, you should be able to pick them as one. So you can just come here and then choose group. You can be able to choose and select and move every one of them around. So what I always love to do now that now I have my orange, I love how it is. What I want to do now is to add adjustment layers to it. So adjustment is just going to be able to make sure that everything is well composited together and it looks like one. So I'm going to be using, adjustments, which is, let me first play around with and the color curves. So I'm going to add color curves here. So if you don't have this layer here, you can come to your windows and come to adjustments to and activate the adjustment. So I'm going to be adding the curve. I'm going to also, and clip mask the curve. Once you hold down your alt and you come in between the layer you've added to the next layer, it's going to bring down this object here and then this icon that is showing that it wants to clip mask, and then clip mask that to this bottle because I only want it to affect the orange part. So what you want to do here is to be able to just make some light adjustment to it. So I'm going to be adding just a bit of depth to it more. You can see that it's a bit dark, and then I'm going to come to this part of the highlight and just take the curve up. You can see what it's doing now, that it's making it to look more brighter than what we have before. And then it's making them, we are doing everything together, so it's make them, in that wholeness. Okay, I think this is okay. Yes, we are good here. So all right, so we have orange bottle pad, and then what we need to do, don't forget that we are in the phase of design. So this is where we are actually doing now. So what we need to do now is now to build on the background. So let us save this. So let me just save this to my desktop live class. So let me just name this tutorial. All right, I guess this is good. So what we want to add now is to add depth. We have already added depth in terms of lights, to define where our shadow and our light areas are. And then what you want to do now is to add it to the bottom of the bottle as well. So I'm going to come here to in between the orange pack and then in between the bottle that we did. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to take my brush. Don't forget, B is your brush, or you can come here and select your brush. So I'm going to right click on my artboard. So here is the trick. So there are different ways you can be able to create shadows, but the one that I think that's most simpler for me, you understand. So once you right click and then you choose your soft brush, you can select this. You can see this around, you can rotate, and then probably your brush is probably an artistic brush, you can rotate. But what I want to do is to shrink down the what's it called, the size of the brush to form, and what's it called, to make it that aspect as if it's flat. So once you click on the brush, so look at this now, these two dots you can see here. So if you click and drag one of it, you can see what it's doing. It's as if it's creating it in a three-dimensional and what's it called, aspect of it. So you can see once you scale it up, it's cycle. So you can decide to just shrink and scale it down to just give you that depth of sitting, because that's what we want to do. You can see what we have here, what our brush looks like now. So I can decide to scale the brush up. You right click, you can use your size and increase the size, but I always use my right bracket to be able to just scale up. You can see what we have here. So and then I will just choose my opacity to 100% and my flow 100%. So I'll just click once and then I have this. You can see now that it's as if the orange is sitting down on the floor. But another way you can create the shadow, if you create a new layer. If you don't do that, if you have the circle as well, so let me just do the normal circle, and then I paint the circle, I paint the brush. Let me just bring it up so you can see what is there. So if I click my Ctrl T, and then I can decide to just hold down my shift and then scale it down to now give us that same layer of what we have. But to be able to make it much more simplified, I think the first option works best for me. So now don't forget, any shadow that you want to apply has to be in multiply. So the blend mode actually works well for shadows. So you can see that we already have something here. So let's do the fall off. Fall off is after the shadow, the bounces that happens after the shadow an object is on a particular surface, the fall of is the aspect of it that is fading off. So let's now create a duplicate and then scale this one down to now come back in and then increase the opacity. So that one, because the area that is touching the floor would be much more darker than the aspect where it's the fall off is already happening. You can see what we have here. Okay, so I think this is good. Both of them are in multiply. All right, so the next thing I want to do is now to pick colors. So you already know that if you are looking for oranges, you understand the colors has to be related to what we're doing. So I already sampled the color I used here. So you can see, so the color code, here's the color code. So is F55906 here. So I'm going to select my color field, which is in the background. So if you want to add your color field, you can come here to this part and just choose solid color. You can be able to add the color so you can see what we have here. So I'm going to be adding this and bring this down. So you already see that we are not seeing this color anymore. So what we need to do is to be, and I'm going to control I on this white surface and then be able to inverse the color. So what I want to do is to paint out the other color beneath it. So I'm going to use my soft brush and make sure that this part is switched to white. So you can press your X to switch between the foreground and the background color. So I'm going to be painting here with our foreground. So I'm going to be painting white. You can see that it's black. That's why it's not showing anything. It's only showing what is beneath it. So what we want to do is to now, paint the white. You can see what we are doing here. So I'm just clicking the brush. You can see what is happening here. So it's revealing the one at the foreground now. So what you want to do is just to be able to add a bit of that depth to the design. I guess this is looking okay, but I don't want it to be too much. I guess this is okay now. So okay, so we are good with this. So other things that you can do once you probably making your design is to be able to see where you can add highlights and other stuff as well. So it's just to be able to make the design to pop out of it, but you don't want the what's it called, the adjustment to be too much. If not, it just fade off and then doesn't have any meaning again. I think this is okay. So this is quite okay. I love this. So I think this is quite okay. So we're having something nice. So I'm going to group, don't forget to always group your elements together. So I'm going to group this as the bottom. So this is I'm going to group this Ctrl G and add this to my effects. So effects, that's just effects. So but this is the bottom. So anytime I want to do anything on the bottom, I can be able to click and drag it anywhere, because we need to scale it just up a bit so we can be able to add the text to it. I guess this is quite okay. So what we want to do now is to add other elements. So I'm going to be making use of this light ray. I love this light ray lots. So let's just just to be able to add much more realism, to not just have the background to just look too bland. So okay, so what you need to do now is to just change the blend mode of this to overlay. I guess this overlay actually works well. So the reason why I'm not changing it to to smart objects, because once you click and drag any element from your folder into a layer you're working on, it's immediately just convert it to smart objects. So that worked for me. So what I want to do now is to just rotate the elements a bit. So I'm going to be doing we're going to be doing a field blur to it, just to be able to not make the elements too sharp. So I think this is quite okay. So I'm going to add mask to it. So if you come here, this is mask. You can click on the mask. What we want to do is to erase some part of it where we don't need. So switch between your foreground and background to have black here and paint black. So we are painting this mask we have here. So we are just painting. So we only want the center of focus to be on the object. So that is initially what we are trying to achieve. You can see what we have here. So I'm going to make duplicates of this as well. So you can see that it adds much more, what's it called, to it as well. So I'm going to flip this 180, Ctrl T and flip. So we just have it here as well. So it can balance the scale of the object. I think this is quite okay. All right, this is good. I think this is okay for us. So what we need to do next is to add, those leaves. If you look at the samples that we see, right, you can see that there are a bit of, leaves just to add to the feelings of the design you already have with, the orange leaves to the design initially. So what we're going to do now is now start playing around with our leaves. So we have these stock leaves here. So I already removed the background. So let me just, open it so we can be able to see what we have here. So, okay. So I already have this leaves here. I'll be sharing this file with us to play around with. So I'm going to drag this here. You see what we already have. Convert to smart object before scaling it down so that I don't have too much of, can be able to work around any other sizes in the future. Okay, so some of it has already been blurred. So that's why I'm not doing much of blurring on it because it's already blurred out. So let's convert this to smart objects, don't forget. So I want this sum to be out of focus. So it seems as if this is, if this was taken with a camera, so there are probably some images that, some part of it that is out of focus. So the object is focused on the footage. So that's what we are trying to achieve. So this is out of focus. So it's not as if you are just dragging the element around. Every one of the elements you are using has to have a purpose and the reason why you're using it. So this reason is because we want to have the element as if this is actually out of frame, and then the probably when it was taken, the focus was on this bottle and not on the leaf. So this is adding to the depth of the design. So I'm going to make duplicate of this Ctrl J and then just click and drag just to add, strategically have the element. I think this is okay with me. This is okay. We don't want to have too much, but let me see if I can add one more. Let me pick this little. Let me just, can take this part and then just add this. So just convert, don't forget convert to smart object and then scale it down. So I think this is quite okay. This is okay for me. So this is good. So if we say we are even done, of course we are, but you want to take this out a bit. Yes, this is okay. All right, so what we want to do is to add leaves to the top as if the, what's it called, design was actually, and below a leaf tree, the orange tree. So you can just decide to just play around with this. So I'm making duplicate of this and just, playing around with the rotation to get, an angle of it. So I'm making duplicate of this as well to just add it randomly. So I'm going to be blurring this out a bit, but let's just say we have different leaves at the top of the design, and then, probably the leaves were at the top. So, all right, let me play around a little more with this. Let's flip this to hard randomness. So I think we are good with this. So let me see. I think this is too much. Just okay. So what we do next is now make one of these oranges. I'm going to make one of these oranges and, add it to one of these as if it is an orange tree. So that's just the whole idea. So let me just take this image. I'm going to take two of it, this, and just bring it back. I don't want to tamper with what we already have there. So I'm going to take this below the leaves. So let's now scale this down. So we have this here. So we have this here. So you can see that it's just subtle, but it seems as if it's an orange tree, and then the leaf, the tree is showing. So let me just see if I can just rotate this to show the aspect. But I don't want to see that it's cut out. Yes, I think no. This is okay. This is okay. Okay, I guess this is okay as well. Okay. All right, let's add one more orange to this and then bring it here. So I'm going to be grouping everything together and adding, so first and foremost, let's just add blur. So let's blur this. So you have to make this, let's convert to smart object. Don't forget, all the leaves convert to smart objects. You can be able to make adjustments. So any object you convert to smart object, if you apply any filter to it, you can come back to it and make adjustment to it. But if it's not, you cannot do any adjustments once you apply filter. So I'm going to be applying blur. So let me just use normal Gaussian blur, and then I don't want it to be too much. It's just for her. So I think this is 5.4 is okay, or 5 or 5.4 is okay. And then come to here. You can press your Ctrl Alt F to apply the last filter, so that you don't go back to the, and what's it called, what you already did before. So Ctrl Alt F just to apply random, So if one is too much, you can, reduce one to, seems as if that one too was focused on a bit. So everything must not be same thing. Excuse me, sorry. Okay, so I think this is quite okay. So I'm just trying to double click. You can see that once the filter is applied, I can make adjustment to it because it's in smart object. If it's not smart object, you cannot be able to control the noise again once you apply it. So I think this is okay. So this is okay for me. Excuse me. All right, so this is, and so I'll just love to group everything together. Okay, this is the one that we had. Let me bring this down so I don't want this to cause any. Okay, so because I want us to scale this down a bit, I want to group all these elements. So I'm going to be taking this, I'm bringing this down and make, group it. Let's just say floating leaves. I'm going to name this floating leaves so that I can be able to identify them quickly. So out of focus, let's just say DOF, depth of field, and then these images that we already apply, I'm going to group everything together so we can be able to now scale it down more if it's too much, and then just take it up a bit so it doesn't take too much of the, what's it called. I think this is okay. This is quite okay. So what you want to do next is now to and apply what's it called, because this is pretty much good to go. So now you want to add text to, let's add text to the design, because because this part where we conclude on the design. So I'm going to be taking, don't forget the floating leaves. So that's why I'm going to name your designs, and then I want to take the floating leaves and then shift it up a bit so that I can be able to put in our text. So this is where you actually need to consider the font of the brand also, because every brand has its own font. So I'm going to put in Five Alive and OP. So, but you have to first know if the brand has a font they want you to make use of, or if you need to use, because that design sometimes there are some fonts that work with some designs, right? So if they want you to play around with the design or play around with the fonts, so I'm going to be using Morganite for this case. So see, it's bold, and then let me just do this here. So we have the Five Alive Poppy. So I'm going to be using the leaf green. So I guess that's also part of the brand font. So you can just sample one of this color here. So what I did was to press my eye and sample the leaf color. So if it is already, you can sample any color, and you see that your what's it called, your foreground is being changed as you click on it. So let me just I have the color here, so you can alt and backspace. So if you do alt and backspace, it's going to paint over your foreground to the text. If you do control and backspace, it's going to paint over the background to the any object you selected, if it's what's it called, object that is applicable to to paint the and color over. So for this case, you can use this when you are trying to choose colors, so you don't have to stress yourself to select color, come here, choose color, but you can just come here to your color swatches here and then select the color that you actually want. So I think this is okay. So Five Alive Paul P, and I'm going to make duplicate, alt and drag, don't forget Control T, and just scale this down and just name this an orange overload, as we have on the design, orange overload, and then you can just make this white. So what I did was, it seems like okay, we can still scale this down a bit, right? You can scale this down a bit and just bring it up and bring our text up so it doesn't touch the yeah. So we have a little text here that says and squeeze the day with Five Alive Poppy. So that's the completion. So squeeze the day with the Five Alive Poppy. So we can change this. So you can see that this is a bit too light. You can come here to your text panel and then can be able to just choose a darker color out of the green, so to be able to just make sure it's well readable, it's legible. So because that's the purpose, you don't want to use a text that they'll be struggling to read, so we can make this white. So you can decide to come to your text panel, choose the color and choose the color, but I always love to just use my own command if I already have the colors in my foreground or background swatch here. All right, I think this is okay, so we can just scale this down. so that we don't forget to centralize. So what I did was take, select the text, Control A, and then choose, the centralize option here, so that I can be able to centralize your designs, your text to the layer. So you don't want text that's, you want a good design, and then it is your text arrangement that spoils the design. All right, I think this is quite okay. So what we want to do now, let's just, put the logo of Five Alive. So I'm going to drag and drop the Five Alive logo. You can see that it has color. So, but let's go into the object, double click on the icon of the object, the smart object. Then you have this. So there are a couple of ways you can remove. You can use your quick selection, but in this case I will make use of my eraser. I'll use magic eraser because it's white that dominates the, and what was it called, the color. So my magic eraser to the last one here. So I'm going to click on this and then, take down the white. Yes, I think we're good. Yes. So I don't know why it's not trying to save. So it's supposed to actually save. Okay, probably the objects, the, what's it called, it's not a PNG file. So let's just drag and drop it back here. So let's, delete this and then make sure you convert to smart objects as I always mentioned. So and then bring it up here. So I think with this now we can say, this has been an awesome time. So the design is quite okay. I love the feel of everything. But before we bring the class to an end, remember that the phase that we just discussed now is design. So after initial design, what happens next is that, you submit the design to whosoever, and what's it called, your contact person is, to be able to make the design to go for approval, and then, get the final feedback. Because after a review, there might be feedback, there might not be, but mostly in design there might be feedback. The feedback might not be initially on the design, might just be, okay, why don't you make the, the puppy to look this, to look that, but it might not initially be the overall design. But just, prepare your mind that sometimes you might think that you've made the best design, and then, the client comes back to you and say, oh, actually this is the direction, this is so just make sure that you are prepared for that. So depending on the review that you get will now determine the after they have reviewed, the feedback you get will now determine how you want to implement. So after you've, put down everything, the implementation is where you now try to, amend what, has been given to you based on what they want to correct in the design. And also after that is done, then you have to move to implementation. So implementation is where you, just put together everything, how the feedback, be able to also make sure that you also discuss with them, because sometimes, and there is a saying that says that people don't buy what you do, they actually buy why you do what you do. So first and foremost, you have to, sorry, I noticed that this is orange is not spelled correctly, sorry. So you have to make sure that, they say people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do what you do. So you have to first let them know the direction towards why you take these steps, and then see reason why this is actually best. So once they are, when they are coming up with their own feedbacks, they can be able to, put everything together and then be able to know which one is best for them. So that's, brings us to, to the class ending. But before actually I end, I would love to show you one aspect of it which I also promised. So let me see. Okay, so one of it is the, I think we should be able to just do this in just few. So this is initially the design. What I did was just to, now turn around the design and make it, look as if it is laying on the, and what's it called, on the, and what's it called, on the background that we can be able to see here, on the wooden background. So and then you see that I changed the area of the shadow. So it seems as if the light was coming from the left hand side, so the shadow has to fall back. So where the direction of your light will determine where your shadow needs to go. So and then what I did here was just to add elements of it. So let me just do one so that you can be able to see. Let me pick up one of the background that I have here. So let me see. So I think I have okay, I think the background is not, I thought I have the background here, but it's not. But okay, let's just make use of this initially. Okay, let me open my original file. Okay, so let me open the original file so you can be able to see how I was able to cascade the design into other elements. You understand? So that was initially what I explained earlier. So you can see here, so what I did was the initial design, and then I make use of my, my boards to just make different variations of the design. So let me just take the background. Okay, so this was the initial background. So what I'm going to do now, let me close this layers. We don't need this anymore. I think we're pretty done with the leaf. So we don't need the Five for Life logo. Let's close down the layer so we can be able to see at a glance everything that we need to do. So this was our bottle. All right, so I'm going to be making duplicate of this. So let me just say I want to add a new artboard. I'm going to make this into an artboard. Control G. I've grouped every element together. I'm not sure if your Photoshop does, but if you're using the latest Photoshop, you're able to see the artboard. So what I'm doing is to choose to the artboard. So let me go back and show you. So I right click on this and come to the artboard. So what I did now after selecting the artboard is to crop my where I initially have my design, so you can be able to make this into an artboard, right? So initially you can have you might have done this earlier when you were creating the new document to choose an artboard, but should in case you don't, you can just crop the artboard out like this, and then from this plus you can just click on this plus, so it had same size of this artboard to this, but you can always change the size. You can see what is selected here. You can see the size at the top here. So if you want to change this to 1080 by 1920, let's say I'm doing 1920 now by 1080, so you can see that it immediately changes the size to what size I wanted to do. So this is good. So what I'm going to do now is to take, that's the importance of grouping your elements together. So let's say this is first design. Let's name this first design, and then let's ungroup this, and then take our, what we need is just our bottle. Don't forget, that's why we named it. You can Control C, or you can Alt and drag it into this artboard too. So it's going to immediately come here. So you can see what we have here. So this is a place for you to start a new design. So what we need to do is to, I'm going to hide the first design, and then take out our shadow, because we don't need this shadow again. We want the shadow in elsewhere. So I'm going to Control T and then rotate the design. So to just, you can see that I still have another shadow, so you have to make sure that you take down both shadows. So you can see that this design is already been rotated, so I can scale it up a bit and then just position it to where I want it. So what I did was just to bring out, bring this background, click and drag and drop it here. So don't forget, always convert your, what's it called, to smart objects. So convert to smart objects, and then just drag this. So you have to rotate this to as if it's in position of the rotation of the orange juice as well. So I'm going to just rotate this and then bring this down. You can see what we have here. So this is too large, so let's just try to just reduce the size a bit and then have more of the table. I think this is okay. Let me see the rotation again. So you can see, let me see, I guess this is, yes, this is, I think I love this rotation. What rotation did I even keep here? So yes, I love this. This rotation is not bad, but you can decide to just, I don't know, let's rotate only the table. So you can decide to just keep it this way. It's as if it was rolling down from the table. So what I did was to now add a new shadow. So I'm going to be using the lasso tool to just do a quick selection of where I want my shadow to be. You can see what I'm doing. So just to ideally create where the shadow is going to fall. So I'm going to create a new layer, and then I'm going to paint this. Don't forget, you can reset this color swatch by D. So and then I'm going to paint this from, I'm going to be using the gradient tool. So what I'm going to do is that you can come to the basic texture in case your own is showing colored. So you can just come and, if you choose the basic texture, you'll be able to have the black and white. So I'm going to, from this, I'm selecting the gradient tool and then click and drag out. So click and drag this out, right? And then I'm going to deselect, Control D. So you're going to drag this down, and then you can see what we have here. So what you need to do now is to switch to multiply. So you are going to change the blend mode to multiply. You can see what we have here. See, as if it's a rough shadow. But what you want to do next is to blur. So I don't need to convert this to smart object, since it's a blur effect I'm trying to achieve. So don't let me use command, because I'm used to command. So just come to here and come to blur, and come to your Gaussian blur and then blur it out more so you can see, okay, this is good. So you can decide to just reduce the opacity. Yes, I guess this is nice. So you can already see what we have in here. So what we now need to do, you remember that we've added fall off, and then we can initially add more to where the bottle is initially sitting down. So to just add more depth to it, and then just painting that layer. So what I did was to select and do control backspace to paint it with my foreground color. So that's what I initially did. So I've added a shadow here, so I'm going to do blur. So you can just come to filter and use what you already use. Don't remember that, we don't forget that you can always use Ctrl Alt F to apply the last filter. So I think this is quite okay. Change the blend mode to multiply again and reduce the opacity. So I think with this is quite okay now. So you can just see it as if it's, it is initially laying down on the flat surface. So you can decide to just rotate your table a bit more so it doesn't seem so cold. So I think this is quite okay. So I think this is okay. So what I did was to add, fall of oranges. So what let me pick part of the oranges that we have on this design. So I'm going to switch to my layer selection mode and pick one of this orange and just alt and drag it up out of the bottom so that I can be able to create as if, there were oranges that were being dropped, as if, what's it called, the drink was on the table, and then, there was drop of oranges that was coming from the top view. So that means that once something is coming from the top view and you are focusing on this, it has to be out of, you have to make sure the oranges are not, and looking too sharp. So you have to add blur to it. So let me use field blur to this. So let me just do, I guess 15 is too much. It must not lose to 6 is okay. So it's as if it's much more, the closer to it to the object, the more sharper it's going to be. So that's what you do. So that's what I did for here too. So just to see as if one should be close here, as if one is already about to fall down. So and then what you need to do is to add leaves to just support the whole design, just to add the effect. So let us unhide our first design to pick the leaves from this. So you can just hold down Alt and drag it here. So that's one thing about having artboard. You can be able to work around different elements simultaneously. So let me pick one other leaf as well from here and just bring this one here as if this one was very close to the camera and then it was already going out to focus. So you can see. So this is initially what we have. So you can Alt, let me just bring this text, Alt and drag and just bring your text here. So what you want to do here is that you see that this grade is not working here, except if you're going to add overlay to it. So you can decide to just add, let me see. So you can change between your blend mode to make sure it just seems as if the text also it's actually written on the wooden and what's it called table. So if you change this to white, you see, let's see what we have white, you can see. So it's already losing that, it's too much. But what you need to do, you can make duplicates of the text again, so it adds much more intensity to it, so it's make it to come alive more. So we can just increase the orange overload, and then we can bring our squeeze, Alt and click to bring this here. So we can initially have white, or you can decide to just have a mask and put overlay so that we can be able to have that touch of yellow. So I can just decide to use my mask selection to M. If you click on your M, it comes to the rectangle too. So let's just click this rectangle and then add the rectangle here. So let's make use of the green. So we have the touch of the green. So I sample the green here, Alt and backspace to apply it and bring my squeeze into the box and then just centralize. Don't forget, always make sure your text is centralized. So I think this is quite okay, but you have to scale it down, not too much. Squeeze the day with 5.4p, and then you can just, don't forget, let me group everything together so you can see. So you can be able to drag everything. So I guess it's because I'm on layer, so don't forget, choose group. If you want to select the group elements, choose your group. So this is what we have here. I think this is quite okay. So but if you decide to just play Ctrl J and then play with some of the leaves again to just add much more depth to the design so it doesn't seem too empty, you can add one here just to make it as if it's out of focus here. You can decide to make a duplicate of this orange and scale it up as if one was much more closer to the camera, and then you can see this here. So if it's much more closer to the camera, that means that the blur has to be much more than the others. So this is quite okay for it. So I think with this now we can call it a date. So thank you all for joining in. Sorry for the background noise. So if you're new to this channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and also share. So you can as well save the video. I think you can save it to your, and what's it called? To some of your videos, should in case you want to catch up with it to follow, because I know it's a lot. You can decide to just come back to it and follow through with the whole design again. So I'm going to be sharing once I upload the elements of the design, so you can be able to just pick any of it and be able to just practice along to see what you can be able to do. And if you don't join we also have the design community for design and mentorship, free place for you to be in. So you can also, there's a link in the description that you can be able to just make sure you also join the community for any other class that's going to be upcoming. So make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. All right, thank you all for joining. So, and also there's a video that we are initially have for animation. So should in case you interested in actually learning how you can be able to animate flyers like this, so there's a tutorial, and it's already on our YouTube channel. So you can just search at it. That's design master class, animate and design and animate in Photoshop and After Effects. So you can just find it and then make use of the resource. So thank you all for joining in. See you guys another time. All right, bye.